Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking something that usually sounds like pure woo-woo magic and completely deconstructing it. We're going to dive deep into the exact mindsets, the daily routines, and even the literal neurological tricks that the most hyper-successful people on Earth use to engineer their wildest visions into reality. We aren't talking about wishing on a star here. We are going to break it all down into pure, actionable mechanics.
To kick things off, picture this. Years and years before he was a household name, Jim Carrey used to drive his beat-up car up to Mulholland Drive every single night. He'd look out at the sparkling city lights of Los Angeles and vividly visualize himself as a highly sought-after, popular actor. He actually took out his checkbook and wrote a physical check to himself for $10 million, specifically adding the memo for acting services rendered. He kept that battered check in his wallet for years, and guess what? Years later, he got paid exactly $10 million for his breakout role in The Mask. Crazy, right? Or take Conor McGregor. He talked about visualizing himself driving a beautiful, luxurious soft-top Bentley while he was literally out in the cold, pushing his busted car just to get the engine to turn over. These guys didn't just sit around and hope for success. They engineered it.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the delusion of greatness. Then we'll define exactly what this law of attraction really is. After that, we'll break down the exact mechanics of visualization, explore this concept of becoming versus wanting, and finally, we'll wrap up with the actual neuroscience behind rewiring your brain.
All right, diving right into Section 1, the delusion of greatness. Basically looking at why greatness and madness are kind of next-door neighbors.
Now, you might be wondering, what makes these people tick? Well, looking at our source material, there's a fascinating thread here. Hyper-successful people actually share a very specific, almost delusional psychological profile. I mean, they have the absolute audacity to believe in the impossible way before anyone else does. Research points to three very specific traits they all share. First up, a superiority conflict. They genuinely, deep down, believe they are better and deserve more than what they have. But second, and this is a huge paradox, they suffer from massive insecurity. They have an intense, gripping fear of never quite being enough. And third, they possess incredible impulse control, allowing them to hyper-focus their energy. It's really that exact tension, feeling superior on one hand, but terrified of failure on the other, that creates this relentless, unstoppable drive.
I think Muhammad Ali hit the nail right on the head here with this quote. He perfectly captured this relationship with reality when he said, "Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare." These high performers simply refuse to accept the world exactly as it's handed to them. They look at the word impossible and view it merely as a challenge to their own willpower.
Which brings us to Section 2, defining the law of attraction. Think of this as treating the mind as a literal magnet. So let's get clear on our terms. The core definition we are working with here is the principle that your mind acts as a highly powered magnet. The underlying idea is remarkably simple but profoundly powerful. Whatever you can clearly and vividly see in your mind, you can eventually hold in your hand. But, and this is a big but, it requires absolute unwavering belief. The text makes a great point here. If you keep your dreams to yourself, they just stay dreams. But if you get vocal with them, if you speak them into existence with absolute certainty, you activate this law of attraction and begin pulling those realities right toward you. So think about your own goals for a second. Are you keeping them a secret, or are you actually speaking them out loud into existence?
To put this into perspective, let's talk about the number 100. Kobe Bryant used to share this incredible story about laying in bed as a kid. He wouldn't just think about basketball. He vividly visualized himself in the iconic Lakers uniform. He'd imagine the exact smell of the arena, and he would visualize himself getting hot on the court, making shot after shot, until he scored 100 points in his mind before he even drifted off to sleep. He essentially downloaded that reality into his brain over and over again, and then, of course, backed it up by shooting 1,000 real shots a day.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? That brings us to Section 3, the mechanics of visualization, how we move from pure fantasy to actual reality.
Grab a pen, because here is the precise 4-step visualization process you can literally start using today. First, you have to relax your body completely to quiet the noise. Second, visualize exactly what you want, but you have to use vivid sensory details. Don't just see the car, smell the leather, feel the grip of the steering wheel, hear the engine. Third, take that mental picture and write it out, but do it in the present tense. And fourth, read that statement repeatedly, every single day. Carry it in your pocket. As the text notes, it might feel like a fantasy or even a straight-up lie at first, but with enough repetition, your brain will start to believe it. And this part is absolutely crucial. It's all about how you phrase this written statement. You don't write, "I will be happy when." No, you write, "I am so happy now that I see myself," and then you fill in the blank. Why? Because anything you say starting with the words "I am," your subconscious immediately takes as a direct, non-negotiable command. By using the present tense, it's like a mental hack. You're tricking your subconscious into accepting this future vision as a current, happening reality, which forces it to go to work aligning your external world with that new internal belief.
If you want real proof of this mechanic in action, look no further than David Goggins. This is an extreme example, but it perfectly illustrates the point. Goggins was 297 pounds, totally out of shape, and literally terrified of the water. One day, he's watching a documentary on Navy SEALs, and he's seeing guys quitting left and right. But instead of focusing on the pain of the training, he visualized the feeling of graduating. He vividly pictured himself as the 23rd man standing there at the end, wearing his crisp dress whites. He put his mind all the way at the finish line, deeply internalizing the feeling of accomplishment. That visualization provided the massive mental fuel he needed to endure the excruciating physical reality of the actual training.
Which leads us to a massive reality check in Section 4, becoming versus wanting. It's all about shifting your internal identity.
Because here's the harsh truth. Visualization alone, it's pretty much useless if you don't combine it with a fundamental shift in your internal identity. The legendary Jim Rohn laid out this incredible reality check. He said that we do not attract what we want, we attract what we are. Think about it. If you have pennies in your pocket right now, you've attracted that specific reality based on the person you've become up until this exact moment. To have more, you can't just try to change your external circumstances. You literally have to become more. You have to tune your internal frequency. Success isn't something you chase down, it's something you attract by the person you transform into.
So how do you actually make that massive shift? Well, by acting like the person you want to become. Now, our source material clarifies something super important here. This isn't that cliche fake it till you make it advice. This is deeply, deeply intentional. When you purposefully act like your future self, when you create this limitless alter ego and just let them take the wheel, your brain literally observes you taking those bold, confident actions. It watches you, and it slowly starts to change the way it relates to you, replacing that old insecurity with genuine, rock-solid self-belief.
But hold on, let me be crystal clear about something. This identity shift must be backed by a completely maniacal work ethic. The law of attraction is not a magic pass to be lazy. Conor McGregor talked constantly about manifesting his success, sure, but he immediately followed it up by describing his day-to-day reality. Absolutely 0 days off, countless grueling hours in the gym, taking meticulous notes after every single training session, and pushing through real, painful losses. You have to forge your own individual goals and put in those brutal hours of preparation. The manifestation creates the map, sure, but the grind? The grind paves the actual road.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, rewiring your brain. Let's dig into the actual neuroscience of mental rehearsal.
Because everything we've been talking about, it isn't just motivational speaking. It is heavily backed by modern neuroscience. Check out this mind-bending fact from our source material. Neurologically speaking, your brain literally cannot tell the difference between an event that happened in real life and an event you strongly and vividly visualize. To your neurons, it is functionally the exact same thing. When you mentally rehearse who you are going to be, your brain fires in completely new sequences and patterns. The mere action of doing that mental rehearsal begins to physically install new neurological circuits. Your brain is no longer just a dusty record of your past. It literally becomes a living map to your future.
Because of that crazy fact, we have to completely flip how we view reality. Most of us operate on this old model of cause and effect, right? We wait to get wealthy so we can finally feel abundant, or we wait for a new relationship so we can finally feel love. But this new model dictates that you have it backwards. You must feel the emotion first to actually cause the effect. The moment you feel true gratitude, your healing begins. The very moment you feel deeply worthy, you begin generating wealth. You have to fall in love with life first, to literally compel the universe to create an equal reality around you.
Tying this all together brings us to the overarching lesson of this entire explainer. As you think, so shall you be. Those 7 words are absolutely critical. You have got to ruthlessly guard your internal dialogue, because whatever you think about expands. If you feed your brain a steady diet of doubt and fear, it will absolutely go out and find proof to justify that doubt and fear. But if you feed it positive commands, vivid imagery, and absolute unwavering conviction, you become a completely unstoppable force.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty heavy thought. You are a magnet. Your mind is actively working for you, or it's working against you every single second of the day. Your future hasn't been written yet. It is whatever you decide to make it. So the time is now to take control of your own trajectory. The real question isn't what do you want to get? The question is, what are you becoming?